Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ernest Dove. I wanted to make a quick video following the Mets spring breakout game that I was able to attend yesterday. Little double dose of games yesterday. Of course, knowing me, I was more excited about the minor league game than the actual major league game that followed. I just wanted to spend a few minutes going over some of my thoughts regarding some of the players that participated in the spring breakout game. Wanted to start first with Drew Gilbert, who did not record a hit, but the exciting part for Drew Gilbert was the arm strength. I was pretty excited to see that arm in right field a couple of times. He was showing off the gun. So to me, it looks like another positive on my end in the game overall, just from the arm strength alone. Obviously, very curious to see what happens with Drew Gilbert in 2024. You have to assume he's probably going to make a major league debut at some point. Obviously, the Mets' entire outfield, depending on who you ask, I mean, there might be some concerns long term for health and how long they can go. So, pretty excited to see what happens with Drew Gilbert, who's probably going to make his debut. I wanted to talk about my one of my really under the radar favorite guys, the little guy, Rylan Thomas, who gets another hit yesterday in this game. I believe he got that hit off a guy that was throwing 100. I do like Rylan Thomas a lot. It's not even a good comparison, but I like the idea of thinking of him. He seems to have one of those Luis Guillorme kind of style bats at the plate. He's going to hit a lot of balls opposite field, probably more for singles, maybe sneak in some doubles. I like his walk rate, the walk to K ratio that he's had in the minors. So he's a pretty interesting guy to see Rylan Thomas in the upper minors. I mean, what happens with him? He's an outfielder. Where do you place him? There's not going to be a lot of power. Does he become like a utility guy that you can use to put, bat on ball and draw some walks, like I said, like the Luis Guillorme style? Pretty interesting to see, if he can make that jump all the way up to the majors one day, even this year, next year. It's going to be pretty curious, but I'll be rooting for him. Uh, the next guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Jeremy Rodriguez. The teenager comes into the game. I believe he was also facing that dude throwing about 100. And of course, Jeremy Rodriguez never fails, comes through with a hit. He's going to be so exciting to see in this next upcoming season. He obviously seems to have that flair going on. Among many young players in the Mets organization, I have no idea where he's going to play defensively. They can't all play shortstop and second base. So I'm pretty curious, first and foremost, like where is he even going to play if it is the complex league? But still, even down there, what position or how many? Maybe the Mets organization, they may have to start pretty much playing almost all of these guys 2 to 3 positions during the year just to kind of make room for everyone. But obviously, he's still showing his worth. It's going to be pretty exciting to see how high he can jump. I mean, can he be a top 5 Mets prospect in the next year or two? The way he's kind of going at it, that's probably possible. Uh, the other guy, the big guy, Ryan Clifford, the big red dog, comes through with a double and a walk. He's going to be fascinating to see. I know even from the time of the trade, there were those discussions. Some evaluators were saying, hey, you know what? Clifford might actually have a higher ceiling than Drew Gilbert. So I'm pretty fascinated to see if the big bopper, not only how high he goes as a guy who's still only 20 years old. I believe he'll be turning 21 in July. So he's basically playing half the season as a 20-year-old who could go as high as starting in Double A perhaps as a 20-year-old. And with that power, because again, the ballparks in Low A and High A in Brooklyn, they really don't have a lot of opportunities for home runs as different as they would now in Binghamton. So if he hits another 25 plus home runs in the upper minors now, it's going to be interesting. Not only to see how the power translates to Double A, Triple A, but by the way, let's create the controversies for no reason. But if he has to full-time transition at some point to first base only, do you want to save some money there? Is there an opportunity? It would be pretty interesting because obviously something has to happen before that. But hey, first things first, let's see how the power translates even higher possibly in Double A going forward for the big red dog. I also want to talk about a very, very, very under the radar guy. I've been talking about him since last year, very well under. At the 20 years old, he just turned 21 last week. The young catcher Vincent Peroso, who had a hit in the spring breakout game. I just I like his lefty swing. I just find him very interesting. Talking to the staff and coaches last year, they basically just felt that hey, he's a work in progress. The box scores weren't meeting his tools and potential last year. And plus, obviously, he's a catcher. And anyone who catches in Port St. Lucie, God bless you. I don't know how you put that equipment on and you're able to hit in the weather down here for the year. I want to see even where he goes. Do they have him in high A? He could be basically, kind of going for it and be available to jump to high A. But I'm seeing at a very young age. I like his swing. I want to see how the defensive, metrics kind of works up the levels. But he's a very, very, very under the radar catcher, and the Mets are full of them right now. But he also comes from the left side, so it'll be pretty interesting how he projects. But I'm thinking either way, probably about 2 or 3 years from now is when you have to wait and see what his full potential could be in upper minors at that point. Colin Houck, the 19-year-old, who will be 19 all year. He also got a hit in this game. It was good to see him again in person. Looked really good. Again, same thing with a lot of guys on this roster, even like Jeremy Rodriguez. During the 2024 season, I have no idea where Houck is going to play defensively. Do they have him play 2 or 3 positions like everybody else may have to? I'm still excited about him. I mean, maybe if he even has to repeat the complex league out of camp to kind of see where things are. Because again, as a 19-year-old, there are certain guys year to year, but I feel like sometimes the guys who jump to low A that young, it seems like more of the IFA class kids who started at 16, 17, maybe a year or so, before him. So he may even repeat. But either way, I just want to know, even defensively, could there be an arm strength thing? Could he play third base? Is it going to be all around the infield? Do they even test another kid like this in the outfield? I'm interested to see, but again, it's exciting to see some of these guys that you didn't really see last year and last summer from the draft, and here they are doing well, even in a nice, cool spring breakout game like this. The other guy, one of my favorites that I've been talking about as well, is Jesus Baez. One of those guys I was trying to tell everyone, hey, ignore the box scores, and here's why. And then sure enough, in the game, I feel like he proved what the situation is. He hits an absolute screamer right at someone, over 100, miles per hour exit velocity. So basically, it seems like he's the Tommy Pham of the Mets minor league system at this point, and he did that last year as well in the minors. He hit a lot of hard shots throughout the year. He's one of those guys that knows how to barrel up on the ball often and consistently. I believe his BABIP was like 245 overall last year. That's one of those things. You can call it bad luck. You can call it whatever it is, Dub. It's baseball. It's either a hitter or not. Let's not worry about those other stats. But it is kind of telling. And if that 245 can at least go over 300, a little bit more balls in play, you can see all of his slash lines at that point, but obviously go up. And I believe the defense is really good. Again, another middle infielder. I don't want, how much more can I repeat myself? But again, this is one of those hard, like Soup Campbell, Tommy Pham kind of guys who hits the ball hard. Let's just see how the ball falls for him in 2024, along with the levels. Again, all of these guys seem like they're going to be at the low A, high A range throughout the year, one way or another. It's going to be about where's he playing. I have no idea. There's way too many guys. The Mets have held on to everyone. So unless they start packaging guys right before camp, it's going to be a very, very interesting first half of the season going into that trade deadline to see who goes where, who plays where, and who might eventually be traded. The other young guy I want to talk about, another one who will turn 19 years old in about 2 weeks. So Marco Vargas, who's still technically 18 years old, and he kind of did what he's kind of known for doing, at least from when he was taken by the Mets in that trade last season. He was walking. He walked twice. And you know what? I'm pretty excited about a guy who has multiple walks in a game like this, like a showcase game. The place was absolutely packed with scouts. The entire section behind home plate, I don't know if there was any fans there. It might have been all scouts behind home plate watching this game. And you have that pressure, you have the showcase game of the talent, and you got a guy like this with multiple walks. So even under those form of bright lights, Marco Vargas did not kind of like compromise maybe what he does. He could be one of those OBP guys. And hey, guess what? Middle infielder. So again, who's transitioning up and down? Something's got to give. But all these teenagers showing some plate discipline. Some of them are barreling up. Some of them are getting a hit in this game. Again, it's kind of one of those things. How do you evaluate a game like this? But when you've got top prospects facing top prospects, you got to like what you see, even in March. And obviously now let's talk about the pitching. Everyone knows about the excitement of this pitching. It was an amazing thing. Every pitcher out there threw 95 plus from the Mets. And I know that's how the league is trending at this point, but when you see it on the field, every single guy who came out there for the Mets threw 95 to 99, topping out with Brandon Sproat, I believe, who had the highest. I believe Blade Tidwell might have gotten to 98. And the game started with Dominic Hamill. And I swear it kind of went down as expected. Dominic Hamill, at times, dominating, getting 2 strikeouts in his 2 innings. He also had a walk and a couple of hits given up that led to a run. It's kind of the back and forth where you see the stuff is there. Now, my thing with Dominic Hamill that I'm trying to debate is, where does he begin the season? He's one of those guys who's already eaten enough innings in AA. He probably belongs in AAA. But the Mets have a lot of decisions to make at the major league level in their rotation. And you got those guys like the McGills and the Hausers and the Butos. They were fighting for certain positioning. But then, of course, Senga goes down. That probably opens up a spot, obviously not just in the major leagues, but it's going to bump everyone up from AA to AAA. But you still have Vassell. You still have Christian Scott. Do they begin the season in AAA? If they do, do you also add Hamill? Because again, in the minor leagues especially, you can go with at least a 6-man rotation if you want. So you can make room for a guy like Hamill to get his kind of deserved bump, because he does need it. Pure stuff-wise, he belongs in AAA to give it a shot. It's always going to be about consistency and how that's going to work. The next guy up, obviously one of my favorites, Tyler Stewart, doing what Tyler Stewart does. He's got the improved kind of sweeper slider that was just, dominating as usual. He pitched a perfect inning. It was a very efficient inning, which is also very good news. But for a guy like Tyler Stewart, he's actually known for getting better as the game goes on. So for him to only pitch 1 inning and having command throughout the entire inning, I also see that as a very positive sign. Again, March, it's kind of a version of spring, but that was a really, really cool sign to see from Tyler Stewart, kind of showing the assortment that they'll have him pitch in the inning, and for him to basically throw all strikes along with the 95 plus. Again, one of the first pitches already hitting 96 from the start. And I know there was some stuff last year, if he was maybe sitting 94-ish as a starter, obviously, through the whole year. So it's pretty exciting. I know him and a lot of other guys were working on their velocity in the offseason. And then here he is hitting 96 already in March. So I want to see, obviously, among other things, the slider is going to be major league ready already. Now I want to see how the velo is consistent in the 4th, 5th innings. It's to see, the makeup here. Because I still see Tyler Stewart as a starter. I see him having an arsenal up to 5 pitches. The question is always going to be, how much can he incorporate the other pitches besides fastball, slider, with the new cutter he has? And then I guess you have the 2-seamer, 4-seamer. He's going to have the options. It's about how often he's going to use them. And then, of course, the command. So that's why 1 inning, I'll take it. Blade Tidwell is the one guy who had the up and down day. He's the one who gave up 3 hits. He did not have a strikeout, but you can see some of the stuff there, obviously, if he was touching 97, 98. The questions is always going to be, too, now with him, where does he begin the season? Is he a guy, for better or worse, will he have to repeat AA? I believe I can see that happening. I can see both Tyler Stewart and Blade Tidwell breaking camp in the minor league season in AA first. I just don't see there being enough room, depending on which kind of veterans and which kind of guys who end up being cut later at the end of spring in the Major League spring, who's going to accept those Syracuse invites, who's going to be showing up in the rotation in Syracuse to kind of take away those kind of rotation spots from guys like Blade Tidwell and Tyler Stewart. But again, the stuff is still there. There's really no hurry at this point. When you have a guy as talented as Blade Tidwell, just give him another season to start in Double-A, see if he can crack Triple-A by the end of the year. And then again, also with Dominic Hamill, what's the consistency looking like with Blade Tidwell? Over 100 innings. How is that going to look command-wise, walk rate-wise? Let's see how it all pans out. One of my new favorites now is Nolan McLean. I was talking to one of the Mets staff last summer after the draft, and basically what he told me was buy stock in McLean because they felt he's going to be amazing. But I was only talking on the pitching side with the pitching staff. So from the pitching perspective, Nolan McLean looked fantastic yesterday. He was also throwing 97 plus. I like the fact that how fast he worked. So I don't even think the pitch clock is kind of meaningless. You might as well shut it off when Nolan McLean is on the mound because he takes about 3 seconds to get ready and fire. And you know what? I love that. Especially as a reliever, I want my guy to come in there, just call the actual pitch. Let's go. I'm throwing 97, 98. Let's get everyone out so I can go sit down. I like that mentality. At least that's how it came off to me. So for a guy like this, throwing absolute bullets, and he's throwing quick. So if you're a batter, you better not take your time because he's not taking the whole 15 seconds. We also have the final two guys. We have Brandon Sproat. I was very excited to at least finally see the man who got drafted and never pitched because he ate so many innings his last year of college. He comes out here touching 99. He also had 2 strikeouts in his perfect inning. He was kind of embarrassing some prospects at the end of this game. It's very exciting to see. Now, obviously, he's a senior sign, basically. He's a senior guy because the Mets drafted him. He wanted to gamble on himself, and you know what? He got himself more money. So congrats to Brandon Sproat, by the way, for gambling on himself, going back to college, and still getting some good money. And here he is coming out firing already. The question is, for a guy like Brandon Sproat, as a senior sign, where does he break camp? I mean, how low can you go? Does he start all the way back down in low A with St. Lucie just to kind of get his feet wet for some pro innings? Do they have him start in A-ball as far as high A? I think it's going to be very interesting to see. Or maybe, again, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So I'm thinking a guy like Brandon Sproat, depending on, some guys, maybe they just want him in South Florida first, or maybe they do want to get some eyes on him and get their own self-scouting again in Brooklyn, so maybe he can start in high A. But I would think a guy like Brandon Sproat, if he does what he's projected to do, I would think Brandon Sproat, regardless, is going to be ending the season in Double-A. He's going to have to be fast-tracked. The talent is just there. Especially if he's throwing already 98 in March in a spring breakout game. He's probably going to start hitting 98 to 100 at times. Perhaps would be my thought based on how he throws is kind of something that may happen during the year. And then the final guy I want to talk about, the young player who still exists. I feel like it's been 20 years. Calvin Ziegler, who's had the off and on kind of injuries behind the scenes. And the minor leaguers, when they hit the IL in the organization, they basically go into witness protection program. I know a lot of people always ask me about certain guys that are injured. I can't really even disclose the stuff, even when I hear things. So with a guy like this, I just had to wait it out like everyone else and see when he returns. And here's Calvin Ziegler out of nowhere in a spring breakout game. He gets credited with the save, pitching the end of the game, pitches a perfect inning with 2 Ks. Like I said, he was also over 95 miles an hour because everyone who pitched for the Mets yesterday threw over 95. But again, for a young guy like this, that was super exciting just to see him on the mound. As far as projections, he's a guy, I could almost see him beginning all the way down in the complex league just to kind of get a few starts. I think hopefully then, for my own bias purposes, I want him in St. Lucie for a good part of the year to eat his pro innings this year, to kind of get ready to go up the levels from this point on. But hopefully I get a whole lot of looking at Calvin Ziegler during the year. I do want to project him, obviously, for some low A starts. And I guess, that's most of what I have. Uh, if you guys were able to watch that game yesterday, obviously it was super fun. Even if you kind of saw it but missed some of it, I hope you're okay with this video. Trying to give as much information as I can. Please continue to follow me, support me. Please check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to continue to have as many videos as I can. I already have some Mets minor leaguers locked up for some future interviews in the next couple of weeks. I'm waiting on certain guys. One of the guys has been playing in the Major League spring games. Don't want to bother him until he has a chance to slow down. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Please continue to support the show. I'm out.